Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.co's Daily Brief. Woohoo! We're here. We made it. It's Friday, TGIF, all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, for us crypto kids, that means the weekend's coming. Oh boy, get ready for it. I suppose we've got Thomas the Bear in the house. How are you this morning, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Always fantastic hearing your voice. And we've got Alexander here. Alexander's still in sort of just watching and observing mode, getting comfortable with how we do this. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm great, thanks.
Awesome. So Alexander will be slowly over the next couple of weeks taking over the sort of launching of the show. But anyway, nice to see everybody. Sen is here. Gotta say, and actually I had a few notes here. I always like to do my sort of beginning rant, so just bear with me here a moment. Couple things, obviously Alexander and Thomas are my right-hand mans. They're just kicking butt here every day. Wanted to just make a couple quick references. Sen actually put together that color-coded background script for the institutional bias, and I've actually been running it on my screen really nicely this morning, and I wanted to give a big thank you and a big shout out to Mr. San. I saw you on the site last night, and you were chatting, and for some reason, just before you left, you had I just wasn't able, it slipped my mind to thank you. So I just wanted to give a big thank you to Sen for building this background script, and I have it now on my analysis page here. Thank you very much, sir. And I didn't want you to feel as though I didn't properly acknowledge you. Thank you very much. Totally appreciate that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Benjamin has also built a GitHub script. He has. I haven't had a chance to play with that, Benjamin, but again, hats off to the community. I love you guys so much about this. I just put a simple request and boom, 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 in come the tools. So thank you very much, guys. Totally awesome. And I just wanted to give a special thanks before we get going. Wanted also to give a big shout out. Ian is just fucking kicking ass and building a nice little following. He's got some very, very happy tutorial people and showing me just some really, really great performance. Just a note to you, Ian, I don't know whether you realize this or not. It might be because you're talking to me on like a wristwatch or something like that. But when you send me these pictures, I can't see them. They're too small. I can't read that. I haven't got a fucking clue what that says. So just be aware, Ian, that when you do send me this stuff, I can't see what it is that you're showing me. So just a heads up to you. But Frank is one of the people that's been working with Ian, and Frank is feeling very optimistic. Obviously, he's a little bit shell shocked right now because I got to tell you, fucking Ian's just owning this shit. And it's just a great testament that we build good traders here. I want us all to be working together, working as a community, whether you work with Ian, whether you're working with Thomas, whether you're working with Garrett. These people know their shit, and it's great seeing this kind of feedback, seeing this success in the market. It tickles me pink. So I just want to give a big shout out to Ian, really representing TRI really well. And he's got a few people that are just tickled pink that he's working with. So way to go, Ian. You're just kicking ass. All right. So that's all about the basic rants I wanted to do today. We had said Siord will probably come on Monday morning and do another sort of how are we doing on the new website migration. He told us that he had to take down some of this dashboard information, so we can't really use it too effectively right now. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. That's not going to stop us from checking in with the bear, and the bear always has a nice little itinerary for us to follow on the day. So, Mr. Bear, how you feeling today?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah?
I'm ready to check out what's going on here.
I heard you were saying that you had a very active evening last night. I guess we all kind of flaked out on the OK Coin hangout that we were gonna do last night. I actually, and I hate this because I'm turning into an old man. I literally walked over to my couch and I fell asleep, and I woke up and I saw the clock said 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, oh shit. So I apologize, everyone. I mean, I certainly wasn't going to trade the new contract listing. I told everybody, maybe let's just watch and see what they do. But did you were you active? Were you watching this contract new contract listing last night, sir?
I did not. I was Brian. You've got an echo going on.
Okay, I'll just.
All right. I wonder why that keeps happening. But I did not trade last night. I got sucked into a business event and got trapped at a business dinner for a while. And by the time that was over, I was in no space to be trading. So if there's one thing that I make sure I never do, it's I don't trade when I've been drinking. And that was what last night.
Okay, so just an FYI, we are getting that sort of wonky audio from you, so maybe you can turn off some of those really memory draining programs in the background. Just an FYI for you there, Chief.
All
right, you've got Mr. Bezos on the screen. This guy's an awfully funny looking guy, eh? But anyway,
he looks like a robot.
Well, maybe even like an alien. I don't know. But anyway, what's on your mind today?
Well, I guess the big news is the trade tariffs that the U.S. put on China, and I think we're seeing that reflected in the rest of the market this morning. There's a lot of commodity carnage, shall we say? Looks like gold's taking a big dump. Dollar is
hit hard, eh? Jesus.
Yeah. Even the euro's even though this doesn't really, the euro's not as bad as it was yesterday, but the entirety of the U.S. equity market is negative right now and just doesn't look happy. I don't think they were expecting this, and the market's not digesting it well right now. We'll see what happens Monday. I think they timed this news on purpose for a Friday. I know expiration is today. I think Axel was trying to remind you about a CBOE expiration chart that you had.
Well, we were watching yesterday. Remember, we talked quite a bit about the S&P 500, and we looked at the options sheets, and they sort of suggested that the New York boys hit an absolute home run if they can take the market out above, say, 278. So we're sitting 276 and an eighth right now. Could they pop this up 10, 15 points here, 10, 15 Dow points, a couple S&P points here by the close? Absolutely. That wouldn't shock me one bit. What's very interesting about this is historically, usually most of the volatility is Thursday, and then Friday, the actual options expiry day, is really quiet. But I definitely think that, this Trump tariff news and stuff. And the problem is that these tariff battles, they never end well. They always end badly. So, in essence, Mr. Trump is telling you, I am going to be generating a recession. It is coming. The irony of it all is that he'll make the argument that, hey, I was elected back where I guess 2016, the end of 2016 is the election. So I was elected right here. So I've got all this wiggle room in here. Look at what a wonderful job I've done, building the economy up. But, everything that I see happening here is that this has to end ugly. It usually does. And of course, he's also doing this right in the face of a rising interest rate cycle, which is never good. So, the long and short of it here, I suppose, for today, we should be thinking about, what is average right price and where do they actually, where do they make the most money? I think it's if they can take the market out above 278. If they finished at 276 and change here, do they win? I think on balance, we saw most of the options were like down in the low 270s. I don't have that sheet just off the top of my head. In fact, actually, I probably should have it right here. Hold on. Let's see, right here. So this was as of yesterday. So 270, we're sitting right now 276 in change. So that means that these bad boys here will expire in the money. I think, we always like to say, where is the heaviest open interest? Ironically enough, the heaviest open interest isn't all the way to way down here. So they've got quite a bit of wiggle room. My hunch is they really do not want the market to close out below that 275 level. But we'll see what happens. And like I said yesterday, if they can somehow get the market to close above this sort of 278 area, that's where they hit the biggest home run. And you never know, even into the close today, we may find that they just quietly bring the market back up top here. So yeah, I did want to make reference to that. So thank you for reminding me. And really, on balance, it shouldn't shock us. The only thing that does surprise me a bit is Mr. Trump has decided that, and this is the danger with Mr. Trump, is he's a very sort of double down kind of guy. I've noticed that he likes to hurl, like, say, insults at people, and then people hurl another insult back at him, and then he takes it up a notch to the next level and hits them even harder and really insults them. And most times after a couple forays, his opponent just backs off. So in the trade war kind of thing, this is round 2. And, you don't know how far this guy will go. I mean, we were kind of joking yesterday. If this guy doesn't have a conscience and he's perfectly fine with taking babies away from their mothers at the U.S. border and not even having a conscience about it, oh, fuck. I mean, I'm sitting up here in Canada, and we've got all this wonderful oil sitting up here in the oil sands, and we were joking in the lounge yesterday about uranium and stuff like that. Most of the uranium in North America is up in the Northwest Territories, the Athabasca Basin. He could fuck, if this guy doesn't have a problem taking away babies from, separating babies and mothers, he could very easily justify an invasion of Canada. That really wouldn't surprise me one bit. And he'd actually bill it as a national security interest because Canada is going to hoard all the uranium stocks of the world, and the Americans can't have that. So this guy scares the hell out of me, guys. I'll tell you that much. He really scares the hell out of me. There's stuff coming out of the States and with him actually taking babies away from mothers and actually using the Bible to justify this. Oh, Jesus. I got to tell you, man. I mean, it actually gets to the point where a guy like me, I get scared. I'm very, very worried. But oh well, there's not really much any of us can do about it. So my comment about the S&P, I think, like I said, trade wars never end well. Our Dow super cycle guys, they're basically saying, look for a top here and look for this thing to roll over. Maybe this is the beginnings of the top. I don't know. All right. So you distracted me and got me off on a tangent there. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. What's on the docket here, Mr. Bear? I want to hear you talk today.
I need to hear you sing before we move on.
No singing today. So what's the deal with Mr. Bezos here?
It's just a bullshit headline. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
All right. So I see you're still playing the pharmaceutical stocks these days?
Yeah, I've got a portfolio running of a bunch of names. So far, it's doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. And nothing too exciting. I don't think I have any new trades that fired recently. So I don't have anything to share that would be profitable for anyone because I'm kind of sitting in a bunch of positions waiting for them to hit targets. And until that happens, kind of business as usual for me in that sense. But I do have some bids working on a couple names, and I have to get my portfolio up.
It's not that big of a deal. I don't mean to put you on the spot. How about the Litecoin expiry? How did that all play out? And ETH, because I guess OKCoin's doing it on all of these things now, eh?
Yeah, so yesterday we were watching the Ethereum news break, probably toward the end of the daily brief yesterday. And once that hit, I had a long trade fire through, I guess, this event here. So I was talking about hitting a target into the notch looked a lot less filled than it does now, although there's still some business to do up in this area. I went long off of $97 and had a target of 102.5, which was just shy of 38.2, and into the bottom part of these tails here. And that's where I got filled. And my trade was over in a couple hours. And once that was finished, I didn't have anything to do on the short side. Nothing set up for me on the short side, and nothing set up for me on the long side. And I will admit, I stopped paying attention after I got pulled out of my trade. And I think it was somewhere around 62 or 65% just in 3 hours on a 10x margin long on Litecoin.
That ain't so bad. Was that the trade that you strapped on through the show yesterday? That was Who says you don't have actionable information through these shows? Pardon me, got to put on a trade. That was great. Great.
Yeah, it's nice.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Thanks. I just wish I could strap on a few other positions.
And it's interesting how they've got such massive tails and wicks on these two candles here, eh? I don't think the market even knows what the hell it wants to do here.
Yeah, so this tail here is the contract expiration. This thing looks like it dumped or settled around 92. I can't be sure. I wasn't watching the damn thing into expiration, but you know, this is the kind of violence that you look for into expiration. I don't think I would have been able to take a position through this. This looks like it was really, really fast. And that's, you know, I'm down at the 5-minute chart and you're still seeing that this action was under 5 minutes. I would assume that it was probably right when contract rollover hit. They dumped it into the expiration, and whoever bought down there is a happy person. And who says exchanges aren't manipulated? I mean, good Lord, this is the fingerprint of...
How do you get long that, though? Because the new contract just comes out, right? So
how do you get long? You have about 30 seconds to make a decision.
Yeah, I know. So like and that's the thing, right? Because I was a little surprised when I, like looking at the Bitcoin chart. So there is what they did on Bitcoin through the expiry. Just an absolute mess. It was interesting in the lounge yesterday. I said, it could be $100 swing. It could be $1,000 swing. You just don't know on these. And it's interesting how this actually worked out to be almost exactly like what I guess about $300 swing there. I don't know what the swing was on your Litecoin, but geez, if anything, this is probably a really good reason why, through these contract expiries, just maybe let the dust settle. But what I found fascinating, and I'm not quite sure how to interpret this right now, is the forwards spreads are, even, I don't know, I think this should be reporting the new contract, but they're still reporting backwardization here. Yeah, so there's like almost no premium built into these futures prices. And when I go over and I look at OKCoin, I see that the 2-week contract is sitting, where the hell are we? One of these damn tabs. There we are. The 2-week contract sitting at 65.10, and the quarterly sitting at 65.16. I mean, there's like, that's at $6 of premium. So that actually surprised me a bit. I would have expected a bit more of a premium built into the forwards. But alas, that just did not happen.
Yeah,
So
I'm wondering if the guys are waiting for their 3-month contract to completely unwind. Because remember, the 3-month contract has just turned into the 2-month. So if you have a position through that quarterly contract, it could expire next week. The 2-week turns into, excuse me, it doesn't expire. Next week, it turns into the 1-week contract. And then the week after that is when you get delivery of your position.
yeah.
It could be that the guys who took their big positions are riding this out and they see more potential downside and they're not closing because they have a great position. That's certainly a
Holy
possibility
shit!
here.
Look at her. She just popped. Isn't that funny? Just literally as we're talking, look at what the quarterly just as we're talking here. Look at that. So somebody's like, "Oh shit, they're onto us! They're onto us!"
Yeah, there's a little bit of a bullish potential divergence work. No, never mind. There's nothing here. There's this bearish divergence that's still working from yesterday. This isn't quite a bullish divergence, and when I don't see that nice and clean, it just looks to me like washing back and forth. It seems like the market's at indecision right now. It's like the SEC news hit, and the market was like, well, this is great, let's rally. And then there wasn't, the hardest part about what's happening right now is trying to determine who's going to be a buyer, what's going to make this market take off. And while this is good news, I think what happened is the institutions looked at this and they said, yeah, that's cool, but it's not time to buy yet. It's not time to pile all the money in. It's not at a good location for us. And I think I'm feeling that, and I'm seeing that also reflected in the technicals. The volume's not pouring in yet, at least not from what I'm seeing on the exchanges. I mean, it could very well be pouring in on
your
the,
cokehead's pretty happy here, right? Looks like your cokehead wants to.
well, it's just the hourly. I wouldn't pay attention to that. But
Probably
I do think that
the Litecoin, and actually, I suppose there's a juicy wick and tail there too, also identifying the range, on your Bitcoin chart. Yeah, I think also too, right? Gold and crude, and I'm not even quite sure about the other markets. I haven't really looked at the other commodities, but they are getting their fucking asses kicked today, eh? So if anything, if you are a crypto enthusiast and crypto does not buckle under that kind of pressure, I think that's actually a relatively good sign. Hey, somebody had asked me earlier. I don't know. I think Alexander and I were talking before you turned up. In a weird sort of way, I kind of feel like the short story has been played out on Bitcoin. I mean, because we've been going, and I think I even heard you the other day say, this can only go one direction for so long, and then there's got to be some sort of, snapback. And I'm wondering whether the big boys have kind of lost interest in shorting Bitcoin because they've already seen it's been driven into the ground. And like I said just a moment ago, it's encouraging sign when you see stocks coming off triple digits, gold just getting its ass kicked, crude now. Be interesting to see if Krim is still in his bot. But crude now, I'm starting to see bearish AB equals CDs coming in on crude. And you can see this big old notch on the profile down into the high 50s. So, in the face of that sort of broader commodity weakness, I actually think it's a relatively good sign that that Bitcoin at the least is going sideways. It might actually even be catching a bit of a bid here. So, and also too, I've noticed in a weird sort of way, Bitcoin also, I mean, we're at a really important inflection point. If we lose this trend line, and you can see the war going on, actually, I should show my screen. Sorry about that, guys. Bitcoin's at a bit of an inflection point, and you can see the war going on at the 38.2. If we lose this level, and you can see on OKCoin, they went after it. They tried to break this trend line, and they just couldn't break it. And that's, I think what caused us to pop back up here is that we put in a hammer here. The sellers seem to have run out of steam here in the short term. But I think just, like your Litecoin chart, I think, basically there's a top end of our range for now. There's the bottom end of the range, and you have to really wait for this range to resolve before we're going to get any clear direction here. Anyway, Ian, did you knock another cover off the ball? Jesus, this Ian guy's just insane. Another win, winner, chicken dinner. So this is fucking awesome, guys. I mean, Thomas is banging off trades through the daily brief. Ian's banging off trades right, left, and center. You guys are teaching people that are coming to the site how to do this on a daily basis. I mean, this is for a guy like me, this is a wet dream. I mean, this is everything that JoJo and I talked about in my fucking dreams when I met her. And she told me that we had an opportunity to really make a difference in this world. And you guys are bringing it. You're doing it. Everything that she said that was going to happen is happening. And it's fucking, it fills me with awe. It's so great. So way to go, Ian. Way to go, Thomas. I mean, just keep being the awesome people that you are. I'm just so proud of you guys. Okay, sorry. Wow, where did that come from? Every once in a while, I get these little bursts of JoJo spills out of me. Sorry. All right, where do we want to go next?
I'm kind of seeing a trade developing on the 4-hour here.
Pardon me. Well, we just lost Thomas. But yeah, what are you thinking, short or long?
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm seeing the beginnings of a longer term trade developing here that looks like it's following the same pattern as previous bounces have, in that you're seeing this thing stair-stepping higher, taking its time doing so as it reaches 38.2. And then once it puts in that zigzaggy higher bottom, which will confirm this W here as this being the neckline, and these, of course, being the bottoms here. So let's see, that breaks above there. This looks like a good potential trade. I will not be taking this until we break above 6,600 on forwards, and I want to go to stamp to make sure that the same thing's coming in. But I see the very beginnings of something like this developing. Now, the problem is that we are entering weekend trading. I don't see this thing, being able, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Anything can happen in weekend trading, but it looks a little wishy-washy as of now. But once this breaks above this neckline, I would want to see this MACD not only come down here as it has pushed to new highs, and that to me will signal that I can sit in a trade for more than a few hours. It gets kind of exhausting trading, every few, being in and out of trades every day. I just kind of want to sit pretty for 2 to 3 days, maybe even a full week on a position where I can get a nice for a long period of time. But it's tough to do that in this market, at least for me and the way that my trading plan goes. But as far as the daily goes here, it's the same potential developing. It's kind of it's still messy from.
Yeah, your audio is really choppy, dude. I don't know if you can hear me. Did we just lose Thomas? Hello, Thomas.
That they do is can take a period of time as
back. Can you hear me, Thomas?
Oops.
Thomas, are you there? Come in.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just your audio. You know that how it goes like that when you have the programs running in the background and stuff.
Yeah, I'm tethering with my phone and my browser's freezing. Why don't you take the ball for a second and I'll restart my connection.
Cool. All right, so bottom line here is I think we're a bit range bound. I think, as Thomas sort of mentioned a moment ago, if we look at the higher time frames, it's choppy. These turns are sometimes painfully slow. I do find it interesting, and I actually be interesting to get Stephen back here, whether our harmonics manual, we do have 2 different types of crabs. There is what they call the regular crab, which would be this guy, 1.618, but we can also have what they call a deep crab, which goes quite a bit deeper, quite a bit further. So I wonder for the harmonic guys, and frankly, I'm not going to bill myself as an absolute expert. Who's really good on the site with harmonics is Steven, and he's done a lot of work with Carney. I wonder whether, this is still actually potentially still alive here. I don't know. And, as Thomas sort of pointed out, finding bottoms like this, it can be very, very choppy. The news yesterday sort of stopped the rampant bear, which I think, makes sense given, we were getting like oversold on this Williams percentage R indicator, for example. I don't really have any signs of divergence yet here, so I don't think we can pound the table. But and of course our moving average bias institutional wise is still a bit bearish. It was interesting. Somebody had sent me the link about the hyperwave guy. He did a presentation yesterday. I don't know where I have that. It was one of these people that sent it to me, and I think I've got rid of it. But I did see somebody else actually in the lounge posting it. The gentleman, he's obviously an industry veteran. I don't know. He was making a lot of grand conclusions about what the fate of altcoins and stuff are going to be. I don't know how that plays out. I don't think anybody really knows for certain how all that's going to play out. But I did hear tertiarily that he said he had a technical bounce target on Bitcoin of the low 7,000s. And I think that does make sense. The reason why we like to use this as an institutional bias, on pullbacks into the moving average support, you can see, in this case, it was bullish. You can see that set up a new long trade, set up a new long trade, set up a new long trade. And then when we went bearish, set up a short trade, set up a short trade, set up a short trade. And, if we think market structure, if we think those moving average resistance, you can see it's up in that sort of low 7,000 area. So I think it makes sense looking for that kind of bounce into there. And I actually did like a tweet up yesterday where I laid out about 3 or 4 different reasons why I thought it seemed realistic that we should see some serious resistance. So could we see that bounce into that level? I think that makes perfect sense. But I don't know whether we're quite ready to call a bottom yet. We have this trend line coming up off the lows. You can see the bottom of value. You can see that old low. And then, of course, this happens to be a 13-period EMA, and they often line up as well. So don't be shocked if we actually come up and kiss 7,000 from the underside. And in a weird sort of way, I've seen this sometimes over the past with Bitcoin, especially if, old economy, bank stocks, industrial names, they're getting their asses kicked. You can see the gold and the metals, they're getting their asses kicked. Crude's getting its ass kicked. And yet the US dollar is trying to break out to new highs. And I'm getting the feeling like maybe the US dollar wants to take a good run right back up into these reload zones up top here. I've often seen, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but I've often seen that when the US dollar is uppy, Bitcoin catches a bid. So, we've gotten through the expiry. Phew, that's done. We've got some half decent news coming out of the SEC that they're not, maybe they're going to pause on shitting on this space as hard as they have. One could make an argument that, off of things like MEX here, we actually do have, and now this actually is going to set up a double div on the Bitcoin price. We've made the argument for a while now that really we're nothing more than still just stuck in this trading range. And 70 to 80% of the time, the market does like to try and turn at the bottom end of the range and head back up and test the top end of the range. So on balance, I'm not feeling so as negative as I was. I'm actually feeling like we're trying to find some sort of short-term pivot here in the market. And given that conversation about Ethereum, maybe now we can start thinking, and now, of course, the contract expiry is out of the way. Maybe now we can start thinking about, actual seasonal rallies. Brian's been squawking about forever, and it's just never coming in. When the hell are we going to get to the fireworks factory? When's this seasonal bottom going to come in? God damn it. So, only time will tell, but I am feeling, I got to tell you, I'm feeling much more optimistic than I was even just last week. And, I pull up my winners and losers list. We're actually getting some half decent uppy here. So that's encouraging. All right, Mr. Bear's back. What do you think? Do you feel like taking a whack at this again? Where are you, Mr. Bear?
I hear.
There he is, way over there. All right.
Hope that's better. It sounds like you covered most of the technicals. I just wanted to look at Stamp quickly and see if the 4-hour was showing the same thing as OK Exchange, and it is.
Again, a hell of a divergence there, eh? Jesus.
Yeah. I think they're the market's definitely being set up for something. What that is.
Your crackhead. Look at your crackhead. Your crackhead goes and breaks that recent high. That's actually pretty good looking structure there. So actually, this is a really good commentary on, can the market accept back into value? Don't change and move your screen. If you actually do a range off of just that low back up to that M top, I bet right now we are sitting right at 38.2. And really, this is just a simple question of, can the market accept back into value? If it can, then you can see the claw. It's a pretty damn big claw. What does the lady mean? Is that a lady icon? What does that mean?
The lady and the man. They want to fill in the gap.
Okay. One of them's Hogue and one of them's Eddie, but I don't think you guys have ever met Eddie. Eddie was a great guy, man.
I wonder, can you rotate these? Oh, look.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Now let's keep this G-rated, please. So if you could do a fib just off of those lows back up to that M top there, I bet we're sitting right at 38.2 right now.
Yeah, the interesting thing is OKCoin was not quite at 38.2. Let's see if Stamp is. Stamp's not quite there either.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, in essence, that is sort of your brick wall there, right?
Yeah.
And if we can accept back into value there, then I think it means we've accepted back into above that 38.2. And you can see all those lows, eh? I bet you there's a whole bunch of open orders still working there. That gives a Jamie. Hey, Jamie. Oh, I miss you so much, dude. Nice to see you, buddy. Anyway, yeah, that gives a new meaning to chart porn, eh?
Oops. I'm in a weird mood this morning, huh?
Look at the divergence that's trying to come in on good old Ethereum there. Jesus. This is encouraging. We're starting to see anecdotally a lot of evidence of bottom. So it's good to see. After a long slog, because you can see, look at the divergence that came in there at the end of March, April there on Ethereum, and what, now the chart's gone. How that translated. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this divergence kicks in here on the daily Ethereum chart. We could be setting some sort of base for the spring rally. And if anything, this also makes sense too, because I believe that they will ramp the price of Ethereum into the futures listing on the CME, just like they did with Bitcoin. And, seasonally, if that, everybody keep your eyes open for when they're planning on launching the Ethereum futures contracts, because that will be the catalyst, just like Bitcoin's catalyst. As soon as those futures contracts were listed, that was the end of that rally.
I don't like what I see on the weekly Ethereum chart.
Okay, well, call your lawyer.
Yeah, I'm going to have to call him. All right, little news about yesterday's SEC announcement. The CBOE president came out and said that because of this declaration by the SEC that Ethereum is not a security, the COO at CBOE said that this is basically going to pave the way for an Ethereum futures contract. We all know what happened when Bitcoin was listed on the CBOE. We saw price rocket ship higher. I don't think we're going to see the same massive reaction that we saw back in January or December and January for Bitcoin, but I suppose it can't hurt the space. And if anything, it can help it, and especially add liquidity, credence, and whatever rising Ethereum.
Your connection is really having a tough time today.
We gotta slap it.
As I said earlier, just a moment ago, let's everybody keep your eyes peeled for the date. When do they plan on doing this? Because I just made the argument a moment ago that I think they'll rally the market into this event. And considering we're a bit overdue for our seasonal rally anyway, it makes sense to me. All right. Are there any new, what time is it now? Well, we got about 15 minutes. Hey, Alex, what do you see? And I'd like to hear your thoughts. What's on your mind these days? Are you thinking crypto's going up or crypto's going down into the shitter?
Well, I think we're pretty much at a point where no one's really interested anymore, right? So
that's
I
good.
guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the pain and frustration and maybe anger that we've seen in the last weeks was just about people who bought the tops or maybe didn't really let themselves get paid when we had the rally. So I think for the next rally, it's really important that you really pay yourself, you know. And that's what I'm planning on doing. So I guess I'll since September I started to reduce, so to say, my exposure in the altcoin markets when it comes to trying to own really every single coin out there and really going more for fundamentally solid ones, you know, and maybe also not trying to hold them throughout these bear markets, but rather trying to trade them. So I guess that's my take on the space.
Okay. And it would be actually interesting. Oh yeah, wicked. If you can maybe just thanks, Ben. If we want to, now I don't want to just go off of the top 10 market cap because I don't like that kind of thinking. But if we want to, you know, where's payment? Payment's great for this stuff. If we want to build like a short list of what TRI site members consider to be the good quality projects going forward, I think that would be a really good idea for our community. So if you want, you know, if you want to, Alexander, if you want to build a little list of the ones that you think are quality names in this space, we could work on that as a communal document. But I will warn everybody that, you know, and we were kind of joking about this before we started today. My biggest winners in this space, in this whole experience, my biggest winners were off of names that if I asked people in the public and I asked people in the community what they thought about these names, they didn't get very well received, right? When I bought Ruby, and I was actually given a bunch of Ruby too, but when I bought Ruby, nobody liked this thing. Everybody said it was a piece of shit, and it turned out to be one of our biggest winners. And, you know, same thing with Verge. You know, everybody's heard my story about Verge. When I bought Verge, people really, really didn't like it. And yet it's turned out to be basic, you know, like when you look back on your sheets and you see, okay, who are the coins that actually paid me the most? This one we bought down in here, everybody hated this thing. And it turned out to be, of course, one of our biggest winners. So I do understand the logic of wanting to be in the good quality names and all that kind of stuff, but don't discount the pieces of shit, because ironically enough, today's piece of shit might actually be tomorrow's knock the cover off the ball. So that's the only thing I'm going to say there. But at the same time, too, if we want to build sort of like a vetted list, Shane, you would be awesome at this, of stories that, you know, are relatively good quality. And got half decent projects going forward, I think that would be great. I just saw your pretty little meow down there, and I saw your picture, so I thought I'd say your name, Shane. Sorry. Didn't mean to call you out there. But if we want to work on something like that as a group, I think that's a great idea. So, all right. We're coming up on the back half of the show today. I wouldn't mind just making a brief comment on some of the names that people have asked me to look at. So, any sort of closing thoughts from you today? You're looking at EOS here, Mr. Bear?
Yeah, hopefully my connection's good enough to get this out. So cut me off if I...
That's much better. I don't know what you did, but that sounds much better.
I held the microphone to my mouth.
There you go. That's what she said. Sorry,
oh
I had to say it.
It's all because of what I did on that chart. Got Brian in the mood, huh?
All right. So what's your prognostic? Oh, geez, just that was the kiss of death. I just totally your audio just went to shit.
EOS finally went live. You know, the main net they've been trying to launch.
Yeah, it's just a train wreck. Does anybody else want to comment on EOS today?
Any better now?
The future robot
himself, either that.
Thomas, what's on your mind on EOS? Our UK Thomas.
A piece of trash.
No.
And you don't want my opinion on that. You don't.
Really, you're not impressed, eh?
Nah.
Isn't that interesting? Because that guy Nova Gratz or whatever, he's absolutely in love with this thing. I don't know why, but you're not impressed. I know Andrew. What was it, Sir Shoulders and Head? I think he was calling himself in the lounge the other day. He wasn't overly impressed with his EOS either. So that's 2 downvotes. There you go. Andrew says EOS is serious bullshit. There you go. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, I have no comment. I was very interested in a cute little bot setup for those people that were like, okay, this thing's rock and roll, and that just fell apart like a son of a bitch. We've broken another new low here, so really I can't really get excited about this thing until we start Wing here at least. And I might even argue AB equals CDs might take us down a bit further here. Oh, and I'm looking at the wrong damn screen. Sorry, guys, did it again.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Thomas here. EOS is there's just too many speculators in that market.
And who's this, Shane? Is that you talking, Shane?
With Meow.
Meow. So we got 3 negatives on EOS. Really, I didn't realize you guys are really not that jazzed about this thing.
It's not that bad. You don't have to share your private key to vote, so people don't want to do that. Sorry, I'm just chipping in vocally there. But I know there's a lot of F-loving people, but EOS isn't that bad. It's just unnecessary, complicated to vote. It's the problem, really.
And you have to actually reveal your private key to make that vote? That seems awful.
At the moment, so people aren't doing it, strangely enough, yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. I heard somebody yesterday, somebody said, well, a really big vote came in or something like that. I don't know. Okay. And Thomas had on the screen, at least he's got a really nice article. Can you maybe just give us that link? And we can share that with the community. There he is. And most people hold their tokens on exchange, so they can't vote if their tokens are on the exchange. Ah, that's a really good point, Thomas. So I'm just going to take this link and I will throw it in the lounge just in case you want to see what Mr. Bear's reading this morning. Okay, so that's actually a bit surprising. The tone of the community has turned quite negative here on this EOS. You know, like chart wise, I'm looking for AB equals CDs now because we failed this range here. I'm looking for a test of probably that key low, but you can see the AB equals CD and the reload zone. So there's my weekly chart. So I wouldn't be in a big hurry here myself. There's just not really much for a guy like me to do here. Thank you. I appreciate that contribution, Ian, and I totally appreciate that, Shane and Thomas. That was really good that we all collectively could talk about that. I like that. Okay. I guess Alexander's basically told us that we should start building our short list of quality names. You know, we're going to be heading into the back half of this commodity cycle. We know 17.5-year cycles. These things can sometimes end ugly. You know, the .com era, a lot of the names, pets.com, you want to look up that story and read about how names fell apart following that cycle peak. So just, you know, play from a position of strength. Don't go and bet the farm on, you know, like an EOS. It's just not worth it, guys. As Alexander said, you know, if we do happen to get a nice little seasonal rally here, take advantage of the opportunity and pay yourself. You know, make sure you got a nice whack of cash and you got some powder dry. Try, you know, if you find that your Bitcoin stack is you know, draining down as you just keep nibbling away, well, you can always reduce the bet sizes, right? You can always take Captain Ian here, Captain 0.001 BTC. The guy learned how to trade like a fucking monster, just taking very, very small bets. And I think he's exceedingly pleased with his education. I know I'm just stunned by how well he's done. And he didn't bet big. Just really, really small bets and just rinse and repeat. Just keep coming back and firing away. So I think a couple, I'll finish off. Thomas, if there was anything else you wanted to add to the conversation, maybe just type it up and I'll read off what you've typed. Alexander, any closing thoughts? I mean, I liked your summary there, but any news articles or anything you wanted to just throw at the community here before we bid you adieu?
No, I just think that I think the dust is starting to settle. So I don't see any reason why we can't have any rally from these levels. I think it's just essential to notice that the market state in general has changed to what we've seen like a year ago when we just had these 10x moves within a few months. So I guess that's not what you can expect for the summer. But that doesn't mean that we can get some nice relief rallies from these levels.
And, you know, just keep an open mind. You never know. I mean, that's the irony of this space. It is venture capital. Those 10xers might come. Just keep an open mind.
Yeah, just maybe not 10xing your portfolio in a couple of months with just buying coins, you know.
Well, we'll see. Only, you know, the point here is I think your point there was perfect. The dust is starting to settle a little bit, and that's good. I think that's an excellent commentary. Thank you, sir. And the irony of it all is that if we actually look at the calendar, summer doesn't technically actually start for another week. So technically we're still in spring. So ironically enough, you know, we could do another summer silly season here. No problem. Hey, Shane, were we going to do a sort of a Doge sort of contingent for their conference? Is that coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, it's starts on the 17th to the 21st. It's like 4 days of.
So that's this weekend.
Yeah.
Are you planning on going out to any of these events?
Or is it 21st to the 24th. Sorry.
Next weekend?
Weekend coming up.
Okay. So if you're in Vancouver, I know Xavier's here. I know Tanjay's here. You're here. Dane is here in Vancouver. You know, if we want to put together a little contingent, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll get a Telegram group going. We'll just rename the last one.
Yeah, totally awesome, dude. And I hope you're doing okay. I've been worried about you. I haven't seen you in a few days, so I hope you're doing all right.
I've just been doing my electricals.
All right. Don't shock yourself. Okay, we'll finish off today. Like we said, we'll take just a quick boo at some of your names here. We looked at Palladium, ADX. I seem to remember we looked at BYC. Uranium, I actually spent a lot of time posting a whole bunch of uranium charts in the lounge last night. And in our RRSP group, We had talked a little bit about actually, well, I posted a bunch of charts. They're looking pretty, pretty attractive. There's the uranium participation fund units. Hopefully everybody can see. This is a weekly chart, right? So interesting to see weekly W's trying to come in here. They haven't come in yet. And I think that's interesting because, the way energy's acting right now. So we really want to see this thing W out. We noticed that stocks like Cameco, the big boy in the space, have gone and put in W's. Obviously, we can't chase. If you'd like to join these guys, just draw your reload zones. And my hunch is probably nice little stabs against these lows is probably your buying window. And really interesting. This kind of shocked me. This was the number 2 stock in Canada in the uranium space. And this is what I was sort of joking about earlier. If these uranium stocks start getting going in earnest and uranium prices start launching higher, then I'm really worried. There aren't that many American uranium companies. And of course, if we're doing trade wars and all that kind of shit, obviously Americans aren't going to be buying uranium off of China and stuff. And China might even say, well, it's in our national interest not to, I think might be Mongolia. I think Mongolia's got a whole bunch of uranium. But anyway, I do find it interesting that a stock like Denison, which was like the number 2 stock in the space, if we actually pull up the long-term chart of Denison, watch this, guys. If this was an alt, I love to do this, right? If this was an altcoin, would we be interested in this? I mean, look at this crazy ass stock. It's just insane. So there's your bottom. Now watch what happens. Holy Jesus. And we even got Sen's cool background script going, but we'll put that away for now. I mean, if that was an altcoin, would we be interested in taking nanny nibbles? So, there's some interesting money to be made in the uranium space. I was tweeting this out. There was also a VCIM stock, one of our rollback candidates. Where the hell's that page? Over here. I've been watching this guy forever. I was wondering when the hell he's going to start going. AZZ. You can see the potential bottom trying to come in. Maybe, bids against the low end of the range here. Not such a bad idea. I don't know. I got a funny feeling, though, that isn't the old uranium stock I'm interested in. But it might be. I'm not positive about that. But it is an interesting space. And one thing people are absolutely not interested right now, I don't hear anybody in the public talking about uranium. It's definitely, there's no fluff in it. So interesting that you're heading in that direction. Who is this? Michael? I'm actually thinking about going and buying some uranium stock for my account personally. Bob asked about SunPower. Now this is a little bit, this is kind of like crypto, right? You could pull up, we could pull up a chart, in crypto, like Block's up 18%. This must be a rip roaring bull market. 18%. And you look at the chart and you go, well, okay, well, I mean, let's put this into perspective. Everybody can hopefully see the weekly W is trying to form. Yeah, it's up 18%, but you can see it's just sort of stuck in this range here now. And on the bigger picture, right, it's just stuck within here. So just because you have a fairly substantial percentage move on the day, that doesn't necessarily mean it's like, oh my God, it's a screaming buy. Although, looking at this momentum, I kind of like what I'm seeing here. So, but like here, this guy here, BAT's up 11% on the day. Okay, well, that must be a rip roaring new bull market. Well, not really. It's just sort of stuck, just almost exactly the same as the other one, just sort of, wedging out here. Encouraging. We like to see that, but really it's nothing more than just banging around in a trading range. So why do I mention that? Somebody had said you reviewed Sun Power and it was up 10% since Sunday. It must be a bull market. And I was like, well, yes and no. This is the daily range of this particular asset. And what we have to understand is that there are people that make a living in the market just simply being range traders. What does a range trader do? Range trader tries to figure out a trading range, and I'm going to go and buy against the bottom end of the range. Does anybody remember how often, if this is indeed a range, how often statistically, you already know the answer, is this thing going to turn at the bottom and it's going to head back up and test the top end of the range? It's a good 70 to 80% of the time. It's kind of like Joshua and his gaps. I mean, really, all we're doing is we're just trying to find edge. So if you can find a situation where, you know, the market is giving you 70, 80% kind of numbers, that's an edge. So it really shouldn't surprise us that the market down at the bottom end of the range is going to pivot and probably going to run up and test the top end of the range. You know, this is for like from $7 all the way up to like $9. So $2 on $7 is like almost 30%. It wouldn't shock me to see that kind of price movement on this chart. So when you asked 9.2, what does that mean? I'm not quite sure what that means, Benjamin. When you ask me about a stock here and whether it's a, you know, scream and buy or whether it's a sell, I'm probably going to start at something like the, I guess maybe we can do it here. I'm going to start at something like the weekly chart. And what was that symbol again? SPWR. SPWR. Oh. Is that the same chart? I guess so. Yeah. And you know, the simple conversation is, you know, where is it relative to its range? And I think I remember fundamentally I kind of said, well, you know, I'm awfully leery about number one, being too much of a commodity bull right now. And then number two, do I really want to get into a heavily subsidized, government subsidized industry that without those subsidies, there is no solar industry? Because the cost structure, and especially if crude oil rolls over, you know what? You want to know the easiest way for all the oil bulls to get rid of all this talk about like organic energy and ethanol and solar power and stuff? The easiest way for them to do that is just take crude back down to $30, $40 a barrel and park it there for a couple of years. And all of this stuff just evaporates. It's just there is absolutely no economic justification. The only way these kind of stories survive is if, you know, crude's a good $100 a barrel. And then, you know, what sucks is the politicians, they just want to buy votes. So if you can, if you can buy votes with, you know, like, oh, it's environmentally friendly and all that kind of nonsense, then the politicians, they'll just wrap their arms around it. And, you know, like George Bush in the ethanol industry. I mean, it's interesting. We used to have James on, actually, I haven't seen James on the site in a couple of days. But James is, he loves working with cars. And he says that ethanol is absolute nightmare for engines. It is horrible. It just like destroys, it eats engines from the inside. And so, you know, you ask any farmer whether they want to put ethanol into their tractors and stuff, and they're like, no fucking way. So it's ironic, you know, that whole industry was all about buying votes, and it was all bullshit. Yeah, it's all government subsidies. And it turns out that this stuff is crap anyway. And I find it hilarious, you know, about like the solar industry. These government bodies, you know, like in Canada, a lot of our hydroelectric power is sort of like what they call crown corporations, pseudo half government bodies. And they, sort of get strong armed into these sort of politically correct policies and stuff. But economically, they're nightmare. And you wonder why we have such bad deficits and why fucking fiat currency is worthless and stuff. It's half of the time it's because of these horrible government policies. So put it all together, yeah, you can have a bit of movement in this range. But I'm looking at this like it's nothing more than a range. And if anything, probably if crude had started ramping up 70, 80, $90 a barrel, kind of like probably what we were seeing on uranium, same sort of thing, we would have seen those W's come in off the higher time frames because now all this shit is economically justifiable, blah, blah, blah. But now with crude breaking here, it doesn't really surprise me too much that maybe these guys are going to come under pressure as well. So yes, there was a nice little rally there, 10%. We might even argue too, looking at this 4-hour chart, you can see value. We talked a little bit about range traders. It really shouldn't surprise us that guys were going to come in and take shots off the bottom end of the range. But higher time frame, I think I'd really like to see these W's confirmed first, and then we'll go shopping. And I just don't see it yet. It looks to me like they really tried to put in a bit of a W down in here. I suppose, if you are a risk taker and you're like, what the fuck, Brian? I don't mind taking a shot off of these levels. If we do lose these lows, then my advice is just walk away. You're going to define your risk window very tightly here. And you're going to find out whether you're wrong very quickly. But, given my conversations about 17.5-year fear greed cycles, it was very easy in 2001, 2002 to get sucked into, let's go buy Nortel. It's come off 50% from its highs. And yet through that dot-com boom, pets.com, that kind of conversation, within 5 years, Nortel didn't exist anymore. So heavily subsidized industries that really don't have very good economic basis. I get very, very worried now that we're at the end of the commodity cycle. I could very easily see these solar companies just, basically disappear. So, and that's more like sort of personal commentary. I suppose we could dig into the company itself and see what its balance sheet looks like. But as I said before, if they break the commodities in earnest, stories like this, I think their days are numbered. And this might be this sort of cycles pets.com. In that a lot of these fandangled, like you've heard of like biofuels and stuff like that. These are the kind of names that, if we do go into recession, governments are going to get desperate to chop spending and try and, bring in deficits and stuff like that. These might be the things that sort of get axed the first. And then, if that happens, then their model is completely toast. So just wanted to make a couple further comments on that. And I even posted that chart there for you, Bob. I think this is basically a trading range right now. Nothing more, nothing less. SYPR. Let's see what we got there. SYPR. Cypress Solutions. Did we look at this in the RSP meeting? This sounds familiar. I don't know what the fundamentals are here. I don't know what business line they're in, so that would be a question unto itself. Just sort of like that last name that we were looking at. This is going back a decade here. You can clearly see there's the top end of the range. There's the bottom end of the range. So going and pulling the trigger right here, it's kind of middle of the road. A little closer to the bottom, though, than the top. 50% rules and stuff like that. Usually we like to use 52-week range. And I might make an argument that high from March going to that sort of low from last March, April, probably there. 50% rule, basically that's what that is there. I don't like the look of this gap all the way down here. Again, I would have to know what the fundamentals are. I suppose one could argue that if you wanted to trade this, you do have like a bot here. So corrected 33, but no more than 66. And if you were, I guess, is that a new low there? That's a tough one. Looks like it, eh? So, yeah, this doesn't look like it's really setting up very well. I suppose we could go off like this whole range. Boom. And since is this a daily? That's a weekly chart, so pretty big. Since that is a new low, though, I think I'd probably be inclined to go up to here. So that's the entire range. We got a nice consolidation off of that level there. Okay, so the picture's starting to become a little clearer. You can see how they rallied it back into that 25 level. So if you are a bull and you're like, well, Brian, I really love this name, I really want to keep an eye on, I would love to see just a nice consolidation and then, of course, a move up through this resistance level. And that's $1.70. If they can do that, then the next target's up here at 263, and you can see big old wicks and tails like to be eaten. At the same time, too, what this reminds me of is EOS, right? So if you do play the bot, and frankly, I still think this is forming. I don't think it's ready to go just yet. Because this was a higher high than this, I'd be tempted to use that low, but I think actually we have to measure off of here and then start measuring off of this low. I think if anything, probably keep an eye out for that trend line break. So, one high, two highs, we want to get a third test and then a market structure signal on the other side. So if that all develops and plays out, great, go for it. But if we break these lows, you better get the hell out, just like that EOS, right? That's a great example where if bots fail, you better walk away or else the whole damn thing could collapse. So that's sort of what I'm seeing here. I'm a little worried that this is a weekly price chart and you got these monstrous weekly gaps just floating out there. Probably not a name I would be too gung-ho about. Unless it was just absolutely pristine balance sheet and we were just hearing lots of positives coming out. But my hunch is probably, sort of let's see what we got here. SYPR, boom. Fairly well owned by insiders. Nice low share count. That's good. Target price of $5. That seems a little aggressive. EPS growth this year, 47%. EPS next year. We'd like to see that quarter-on-quarter number nice and strong too, but looks like they're expected to earn some money. Something weird's going on here, though, in that it looks like they earned a whole bunch of money here, but next year is not going to be anywhere near that size. So you can see the PE is going to go jacking up. Price to earnings growth, if they do actually deliver on that earnings growth, you can see that's extremely cheap. And man, that's not a terrible. I mean, I ideally like to buy assets at book value, but if you're going to trade this as a GARP trade, I can live with that price to book. So yeah, I think in the group we even talked about, and I seem to remember there was something funny about their debt. You notice that debt to equity, they've actually, this number, debt is giving us a 0.64 reading. So that means that They've got basically a little less than 50 cents of debt on the books for every dollar of equity. That's a little concerning. Quick ratio, acid test, they like to call that. Can the market actually sustain interest payments on this debt? Yeah, this number is a little suspicious. So the question I think that we had out of the group meeting was, we want to contact the company, go and find out what they're doing. They're in the auto industry, so it is interesting given that, the Americans want to try and renegotiate the NAFTA deal. Mexico did very, very well. Most of Canadian auto parts manufacturers and American auto parts manufacturers moved to Mexico almost literally the day that NAFTA deal was signed way back when. So maybe to a certain degree, there's an anticipation that they're going to get some business back with Mr. Trump renegotiating the NAFTA deal. That could be too. I think our group sort of conclusion was, if you are interested, work some bids at the gaps. Obviously, this time of year, we're into June now. Usually you get a little bit of fluffiness in through July and August, but then we usually get a bit of a thumping into September, October. So I would be, if I was interested in being a buyer, I would just simply say, all right, let's put it on the radar screen, and come September, October, November, especially into tax loss selling season, that kind of stuff, let's see if we can get a dump down into these lows and look to buy the stock around these levels. And at $1.63, if it's trading at 2 times book, then 80 cents, the bottom of value, would basically be book value. So that's it doesn't surprise me that I'd be an interested buyer right at this big old gap here down at 80, 90 cents. Okay, hope that helps. And yeah, Colby, didn't we talk about this in the meeting? Steven says, hey guys, see members lounge for the BTC crab that's still alive. Oh, so Steven, you still think it's still alive, eh? I was wondering, in fact, I had made reference at the beginning of the video today. And it looks like there's some room in the Hangout, dude, if you want to pop in here. And you want to talk to us a little bit about your crab, I totally love that. But don't talk to us about the crabs that you picked up at the bar the other day. But if you do, if you are hearing me and you want to pop in, feel free to join us here before we take off. And actually, I've been going for quite a while here, haven't I? It's already 20 past the hour. Yeah, I love that gap there at 90 cents, Colby. So, work stink bids. Remember, we're cheap asses. If they really want our money, they got to come after our order down below. Okay, I think that basically does it. Thanks. Okay, yep. Yeah, in fact, I even had said nice chart, Colby. But I think we dug into this in depth in the RSP group, and I think we're a little concerned about that debt. I don't like company. I don't want to invest in companies carrying a lot of debt. So, okay, I think we'll leave it at that then. We've been going for about an hour and a half. Way to go, Ian, being an awesome mentor for new people to the site. So impressed with you, dude. Way to go. Thomas, of course, brings it on a daily basis, and he's got a nice group of TA people that he's working with. I don't know. Garrett was in our TA pool for a while. Oh, somebody's here. Who's here? What's going on? What's going on? Wait, what's going on? Oh, it's Justin. Hello, Justin. Nice to see you. Garrett, are you still doing tutorials? I know Garrett was in the pool. I think Garrett is a fantastic, very level-headed, very calm investor. Just excellent mentor. Thank you very much, Thomas, for giving us your thoughts on EOS. Always appreciate those kind words. Not. But poor old EOSs, I'd rather you guys give us the straight goods than blow smoke up our ass. And for whatever it's worth, Thomas, you've made a friend in Andrew, because I think he thinks the same thing as you. Thank you very much, Shane. And Shane, if you happen to want to put together a nice little list of people that want to go out to Doge events in Vancouver, I would. I'll tell you what. I'll buy you an IAP. Is that what we're calling them? IAPs? Did I get that right? I'll buy one. Will be on me if you put together that list. IPA. What is it? I think what is that type of beer? Anyway, it's really popular here in Vancouver. IPA, is that what it's called? Yeah. So, all right. Canadians, we always want to try and sell new products and stuff. So we have to give these things convoluted names, very fancy names, to make us feel all smart and say it. So they have a whole new type of beer for us to drink. And I think they're called IPAs. I'm not positive, or something like that. Anyway. It was invented by the Brits. So there you go. Take that, Brian. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. I think we had a nice communal hangout today. I was very impressed. Awesome. Oh, look at that. And Shane's already got the hangout link going. Doge fun. All right. So I'll join that. Thank you very much, Shane. I appreciate that. You guys all have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. We'll be in and around the site. If anything, I think we should all take a little bit of comfort in the fact that good old Bitcoin didn't get its ass kicked through that contract expiry. But understand, of course, it is the weekend, so get ready. There could be some frivolity here, guys. Okay, you all have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. All the best, and bye for now.